pleasure to invite Lucia Seißler, who is working with the German NOW, the NOW, which is a kind of semi-public company, National Organization Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technology. Lucia, you will speak about the German hydrogen strategy. So we look forward to hearing from you.
Yes, thank you very much, Stefan. I'll try to share my screen and I hope it will work perfectly. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
Let's go to the presentation mode. Perfect. Please.
Yes, thank you. So yes, thank you for this opportunity to speak. Yes, maybe our organization is not well known yet in this round. It is the National Organization Hydrogen and Fuel Cell Technology in Germany, but I have to correct you. It's we are a government-owned company, 100%, funded 12 years ago to help run national funding programs in the field of hydrogen and fuel cells. And historically, we are focused on mobility issues, but we gradually move beyond mobility topics. So this also means that we also come more from the application side, which is also an important aspect in the whole, but I hope you will be able to draw some conclusions also from my presentation here. This is more or less an overview of what we do. NOW is based in Berlin, and our organization has diversified in the course of time. So at the present, we have 2 programs dealing with hydrogen and fuel cells technologies only in our portfolio. Most importantly here, a national program that supports continuous innovation through R&D and also gives systematic subsidies for the purchase of hydrogen and fuel cells applications. And while running these programs, we also see ourselves as the neutral promoter for hydrogen. This is maybe why you get the impression that we're also just semi-public. We try to link politics with research and industry, and this is against this backdrop and the fact that I was told I had only 10 minutes that I will introduce the German hydrogen strategy today. So to get started, the German hydrogen strategy was just published on June 10th this year. It's the first time we have a joint interministerial strategy of the federal government on hydrogen in Germany, even though many ministries already have respective activities. Mr. Chatzimarkakis has already elaborated on why there is no way around hydrogen and its downstream products in his presentation, so I won't repeat that. But the German strategy is, of course, an acknowledgement of the role of this multi-talent hydrogen in the energy system. And also as chemical feedstock for industry in Germany's effort to reach the national targets of climate protection and greenhouse gas neutrality across all sectors until 2050. It integrates ongoing and planned programs of the government on the one hand and defines additional measures on the other hand. As for budgets, 7 billion euros are earmarked for national measures at the moment, while 2 more billion euros will be provided for international measures. And it goes without saying that due to the overall aim of energy transition, this strategy focuses on green hydrogen, which is hydrogen produced from renewable energies. And in the strategy, it is also not all about green hydrogen from domestic production, but also imported from other countries. Now, one aspect that was also reflected in the European presentation. One key breakthrough of the strategy is that government activities in different sectors for different applications will be closely coordinated. Because as is the case, also all countries know this, hydrogen is versatile, but it also means that it concerns many different ministries and responsibilities: economy, transport and infrastructure, environment, of course, and ministries responsible for international affairs and cooperations. And this coordination is actually a big challenge. And there is a long list of goals to be achieved by the strategy. I can summarize these into making green hydrogen a competitive option in all sectors while using all of its full potential nationally and internationally. But it's also important to understand, this is the last point here, that this strategy is about improving policy environment and addressing current developments on an ongoing basis. So what does it mean? So roughly speaking, the German strategy is designed to set a living framework that will also be further developed and updated, but already contains a so-called short-term action plan with a set of measures to start with. So I won't be able to give you the numbers as in the European strategy presented by Hydrogen Europe, because it is a bit of starting the process, this German strategy. And this is how it will be organized. The governance structure will be headed by a state secretaries committee that takes strategic decisions, most importantly regarding the action plan and the measures in there. It will be supported by a national hydrogen council, not to be mixed up with the Hydrogen Council. This is the National German Hydrogen Council, consisting of high-level experts from business, science, and civil society. Council may provide proposals and recommendations to the State Secretary Group, and the overall work is supported by a coordination office, which is, among others, responsible for monitoring and supporting the implementation of the action plan. As described, the strategy includes a first set of measures. The idea is that these items will start a market ramp up in the next 3 years until 2023, and that along time the action plan will also move along with the development by additional or modified measures for the time beyond 2023. And at this moment we have 38 measures with 29 directed to national topics and 9 additional ones to international topics. And due to time constraints, I will only give a brief snapshot on selected measures, starting with some national measures. Yeah. Starting with the maybe most important measure set concerning the green hydrogen production directly. So the government believes that about 90 terawatt hours of green hydrogen production will be needed by 2030. So the goal would be to install 5 gigawatts of electrolyzer capacity until then, and adding another 5 gigawatts until 2035, so that the expected demand can partially be met via green hydrogen. So there is a lot of work to be done, especially if you see that today we have about 55 megawatts of power to gas capacity installed in Germany. The government will also look into improving regulation, including possibly exempting renewable electricity used for hydrogen production from surcharges. This is the maybe well-known German surcharges on electricity in general, which affects all electricity that is connected to the grid. So at the moment, renewable energy creating hydrogen is also subject to the surcharges. And the government would also like to test new cooperation models between electrolyzer, grid, and gas network operators in model projects to see what can be done there. And there should also be funding for industry wanting to install electrolyzer in order to decarbonize their processes. Also, the assignment of additional offshore areas for green hydrogen production is part of this discussion. Another side of it is the application side, and here I would like to show one already ongoing measure. This is the national funding program on hydrogen and fuel cell technologies, looking not only to support R&D to get market-ready products, so that you have to scale up also on the application side, but also giving funding for the installation and purchase of systems, for example, to build hydrogen refueling stations, of which we have 85 today in Germany, to buy fuel cell cars, including fuel cell vehicles, sorry, including also buses and trains, which is also something we're looking at in Germany, and 1.4 billion euros in 10 years until 2026 are budgeted under this program by the government. And the industry, on the other hand, has committed itself to invest 2 billion euros during this time to match this funding. And how about local deployment? Under the aforementioned program, there is also an initiative addressing local regions and municipalities interested in deploying applications. Here, an example is the local transport, while integrating different use cases and actors. So really getting as many actors as possible involved and creating a local economy. At the moment, several regions get help for starting a structured local dialogue on the matter. This is this high starter stated here. Another group gets support for the development of a concrete concept for implementation. This is the so-called high experts group. And a small group of 3 is funded with 2 million euros each for the deployment of their already existing concepts. And then I would like to also show some selected international measures addressed in the strategy. One point which has also been raised here is the prerequisite for a functioning green hydrogen market, also mentioned by Mr. Chatzimarkakis. A system for the proof of origin for renewable electricity, for green hydrogen and its downstream products. So the federal government intends to support this development, the development of European regulations, codes and standards in the various fields and applications, along with intensifying the existing respective dialogue with other countries, also in order to support international harmonization. Also for Europe, the German government would also like to intensify joint research, development and demonstration of green hydrogen within the European Union. Also mentioned by Mr. Chatzimarkakis, we see the so-called important project of common European interest as a good framework to do this in the European context. But also in general, the German government is also looking to actively support the implementation of hydrogen on EU level by its activities. And to close, the last thing I would like to highlight is the perspective on international markets and partnerships. The German government has been maintaining a bilateral dialogue with different countries on energy topics. And hydrogen as one new focus topic will be added into this format and therefore broaden the scope of existing dialogues. And in addition, new partnerships will strategically be formed continuously with important countries. And the government also supports European initiatives that will also help German stakeholders, on the one hand, to position themselves on the market, and on the other hand, to obtain green hydrogen from abroad. And of course, last but not least, the German government would like also to speak with current fossil fuel producing partners on energy transition processes. So that's it from my side. I have, at the end, I have to admit that I stepped in for a colleague on a quite short notice today. My sincere apologies to this about this, and that I have to leave quite soon. But yeah, so if some aspects may have fallen short today, or in case of questions after in 5 minutes, please do not hesitate to contact me afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Lucia. And I think this is also an impressive program that you're managing, and 9 billion earmarked for a hydrogen economy is of course substantial. Well, just a brief question. I think this, just as we got such a critical, and I think it's important to address that, the question of the relation between renewable, and of course we are working here for, and we want to support renewable hydrogen economy, and not a fossil-driven hydrogen economy. What are there any criteria in the German government, in the German program, how to make sure, or maybe there is no such clear line that program only supports renewable hydrogen? Can you just briefly?
Yes, okay. So for example, we maybe directly on hydrogen production, we have a program where we also support the installation also of hydrogen infrastructure. For example, if you have a fleet operator who would like to also have infrastructure there, they have to make sure that this hydrogen is produced from 100% renewable electricity. So there is such a requirement in our programs. And also maybe also to say, we are also more looking into the use with fuel cells. This has nothing to do, of course, with renewable hydrogen, but we also support zero emission technologies. This is also the other side of it. We're not very much looking into burning the hydrogen, but really using it locally emission free.
Good, thank you. I think that was good to hear. Strong focus on renewable hydrogen. Yeah, again, also thank you from my side for really accepting the invitation. I know we're at holiday season, in particular in Europe. Thank you for being flexible and for your contribution to this. And there's one here, not a question, but excellent presentation from one of our participants. So please take this also when you leave us. So